Oh boy, all right. So Path of Exile 2, the reviews are in. Good news is they're looking quite positive, with early impressions confirming our suspicion that this could be the best ARPG of all time. Bad news though is that not everyone's happy review codes even exist, let alone that there are people out there.
Oh, is this about Extra Life? It's gotta be about Extra Life.
Already playing through the entire game. So let's talk about it. Earlier today, the first Path of Exile 2 review was released, coming from YouTuber Fextralife. In the 15-minute video, he said quite a few interesting things about the game. Here are some of the highlights. He refers to PoE 2 as the, quote, Dark Souls of ARPGs. We're never escaping this, right? Dark Souls will be with us forever. Now,
I mean, I think that makes sense, though, coming to PoE. Like, if you played PoE 1 and you're playing PoE 2, the game is a more slow and methodical game, right? At least in the beginning it is. So it makes sense.
Here he was referring to the fact that the game is quite challenging, with no difficulty options to pick from, and even playing through the campaign as it was quite difficult. Lots of challenging boss fights were there that he found quite rewarding to overcome, and that the game gave him a similar feeling in terms of its difficulty to the likes of Dark Souls or Elden Ring. He said that the maps are large, estimating it takes a full hour to go from side to side. That sounds crazy, but we'll see. He also mentions that there was just a great sense of discovery while playing, to be it discovering new lore.
The impact of that. Holy shit, dude. Can we go back for a second? Look at this. Look at the animation here.
That there was just a great
boom,
sense
we're gonna
of
charge.
Playing,
boom, bitch!
Discovering new lore, unlocking new mechanics, finding new
I think we're playing Warrior, by the way.
Etc. Now, one quote
I think we're playing Warrior, man. Like, the more I see, the more I'm like, oh my god, heavy hits sounds so much fun. Like big explosive hits. I just want to play Warrior.
Was that with the amount and variety of content, that it feels like 3 games rolled into one. Love to see it. The campaign he estimates was about 35 to 40 hours,
Google
but after that,
actually. PoE 2 early access classes. I know there's going to be 12 total. Sorceress, Warrior, the Ranger, Witch, Mercenary, and Monk. The Mercenary is, like, he's got, like, machine gun pistols. Or, like, a machine gun, like, gun, basically. Like, shoots out, like, these massive, like, ammunition arrows. And the Ranger is, like, you know, bow and whatever.
There's of course loads of endgame, and he mentioned feeling like he just scratched the tiniest surface of what's on offer after spending 40 hours with it, potentially saying that this could be the all-time
punches are better than
genre.
swords.
He also mentioned that it feels like there are limitless combinations of builds, that respecing is much easier than
don't be daunted by this. You compare this down into like a slice. So like every class is like sectored off into different sections. So, like, while this looks massive, you're only really focusing on one small slice. Like where this guy is right now, you can see how it kind of, like, works out into, like, a triangle. Like, while the thing is massive, like, you're really only looking at this. So, just so you know, if you're looking at it and you're getting freaked out or whatever, like, don't worry. It's really not as crazy as it looks. They did a lot of work to make sure you're not going and arcing around here to the left and right. They did a lot of work to try to make sure things are centralized for whatever class you pick.
He thought the dark theme and overall art direction was outstanding and clearly inspired by Diablo 2. He felt it was the most dynamic combat in any ARPG he's ever played, and Fextralife has played quite a few. He also talked about things like the details on the skill effects and boss designs being some of the best he's seen in the industry. He was blown away by the amount of detail. He did play on controller for a bit and said that it feels like the game was designed for controller first. Interesting, saying that it plays even better than Diablo 4 did on a controller. Now, there were some negatives mentioned, including the fact that he saw a few bugs and got crashes during the review process, and also that maps felt a little empty in terms of the amount and frequency of events. Now, that said, he wrapped it all up by saying that he strongly believes PoE 2 will cement the studio as one of the all-time greats among the likes of FromSoft or Larian. Now, I would argue that GGG is already there just with PoE 1, but that's besides the point.
I think it is to a degree, but only if you're really in the know, right? I don't think it's hit mainstream yet. I think PoE 2 has a chance to hit mainstream. There's a chance, right? And if that can happen, man, that'd be crazy.
And you know what? All of this sounds great to me. I am so happy to hear that the game is turning out nicely. So what exactly is the problem then? Well, there's two main things happening here. One is that the review was posted way prior to embargo, apparently nearly a week before it was supposed to come out. And number two is that everyone was under the impression that there would be no early access prior to the early access public launch. That there would be no.
I don't know how I feel about this, because like I do think that having things be reviewed with review codes is important. So I think it's fine for people to get them. I think it's just bad that how it slipped out, right? I think it just slipped out too early. I don't think it's a bad idea to give people who are reviewing your game review codes, so that it's like ready. The reviews are ready for day one of release. It's fine with me.
No early review copies of Path of Exile 2 prior to that December 6th release. Those weren't supposed to happen as far as everyone was concerned. So what exactly is going on here? Well, I will tell you.
No, that's not a question. That's not a question at all. That's not how it's going to work. People are just unhappy that people get to play the game early and that they could possibly learn guides and make guides quick. Like, the biggest problem people are complaining about is they don't want to see guides instantly when the game starts, so people don't have to, they want to explore and learn themselves and don't feel like they have to do things. Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. That's not how that works.
Right after this. Today's video is sponsored by Light of Moderum. This is an open world survival crafting game with action combat, all set in a world reclaimed by nature and ruled by giant mechanical beasts. Players will explore a variety of landscapes.
We need to watch the video for this too, by the way. Light of Moderum, because it's like a rip-off of Monster Hunter and Horizon Zero Dawn.
Uncovering ancient secrets and forging bonds with powerful mech animals. Some key features include a fully seamless open world where you'll traverse grasslands, deserts, forest, and mountains. There's a variety of weapons you'll use and action.
Honestly, I fucking hate Horizon, so...
First, a wide
From what I understand, PoE 2 company publicly said it was their fault the video came out early in a Fixture Life. Yeah, I know. Absolutely. They came out to the best. It's still kind of lame. It's so lame that it happened. I completely agree, but...
Basics with light and heavy attacks, dodging, blocking, counters, and even special abilities. Fighting alongside you are the mech animals, over 100 to collect, each with unique designs and roles they fulfill, aiding you in battle. There's the survival crafting
I like that, by the way. I like this. Look at this.
Roles
jumped over the mech. That's really good design.
The mech animals, over 100 to collect, each with unique designs and roles they fulfill, aiding you in battle. There's the survival crafting mechanics and unpredictable weather you'll have to protect against, and co-op gameplay as you can group with other players anytime hunting beasts, gathering resources, or building bases together. If you'd like to learn more, you can wishlist and check out Light of Moderum yourself using the link in the video description below. All right, so let's get into the major issues around everything
the Horizon ripoff
going on over the past 24 hours.
Which
so the
I'm
first
fine
big
with.
thing is that it appears like Fexture Life posted their review, let's call it a tad early. At the time it went live, it was the only one out there, which had everyone speculating, really are they the only outlet who got review codes? Now, no, as it turns out, they just posted far prior to the actual embargo. Now, after not too long, Fexture Life did take their video down. It was self-removed, and as of this recording, it is no longer available for viewing. You cannot go check the review yourself. Now, everyone was quick to blame them for breaking embargo because, of course, right, this is not a good thing. You shouldn't be doing it. But apparently the fault lies with the developer, Grinding Gear Games. They said themselves on Twitter, unfortunately, there was a miscommunication with Fexture Life that resulted in a video being posted early. This was a mistake on our end and is in no way on
the thing
Fexture
I don't
Life.
understand about that is, like, does Fexture Life just not have any common sense? Right? I mean, like, obviously you don't post it until the embargo date. Like, he should know what the embargo date is. Even if they said it was okay? That's the only thing that's weird. And honestly, like, I won't lie to you, like, I have some biases towards Fexture Life because they're kind of scummy, but, like, man, like, there's, like, come on. That feels like common sense, but whatever.
Now, I was seeing some speculation that the developer might just be falling on the sword here, that they are lying about it being their fault so as to save Fextra Life from getting hate. The argument that I've seen being, if it was GGG's fault and there was a miscommunication, why didn't any of the other outlets break embargo? Like, why was it only Fextra Life who broke embargo? They all got the same embargo timing, right? And that sounds simple, right? But surprise, things are rarely as simple as they sound. As someone who has done quite a few reviews and previews in the past that come with embargoes, I can tell you the process looks different all the time, and it can often be quite a bit messy. So sometimes you get all of the info, the embargo timing, basic details on the game, the installation and review guides, all of it comes nicely in a package in a pre-made PDF. Everyone gets the same PDF with all the same info. Easy, right? Like, no confusion to be had. Sometimes that happens. Other times, it's just a literal email from some contact at the company or in relation to the company that says, hey, here is the game code. Embargo lifts at such and such a time on such and such a day. Let us know if you have any questions. And then that's it. It's literally just an email that somebody sent with a couple of lines of info. And many times this will be like a back and forth conversation with them, giving you the code and then saying embargo comes later and then sending the embargo. And this process can and does vary wildly from game to game, from review and preview to review and preview. You also have to keep in mind that a lot of times this process is handled by a third party. So it's not even a media contact or someone who actually works at GGG who is handing out this information. Many times developers will hire agencies to do all of the back and forth communication for pre-launch reviews. The point is, it is very possible that yes, somebody actually made a mistake when sharing the review info with Fextra Life. And this isn't me trying to build a case to defend them. I'm just letting people know this stuff can often be like way more casual and messy than you would assume. It is.
I do think that like Fextra Life just has a lot of bad blood, right? Like the bad blood with Fextra Life is a big problem with like why people don't like or don't want to hear about what the issue is. So like he just like any fuck up he makes is like 300 times worse because people are just like, fuck this guy.
It is absolutely possible that somebody just screwed up. They gave them the wrong day. They accidentally typed the wrong time zone. They didn't even include a time zone. Mistakes like this happen somewhat frequently. In fact, I can tell you, I have been sent wrong embargo information on numerous occasions, and I'm not talking like just once or twice. It's happened several times over this past year alone. Now, fortunately, those were all corrected prior to me posting, either because I decided to double check to make sure that the information was accurate, or because they send a follow-up email that says, hey, we made a mistake. The embargo is actually at this specific time. It's kind of like
if Panda's like, yo, hey, you can review the game and post on the 15th. Oh, shit, I mean the 16th.
day instead. Now, of course, I don't know exactly what happened in this particular situation. We're all just guessing, but I do believe Grinding Gear Games. Like, I don't think they're lying about this being their fault because I've been a part of this process so much over the years that I can tell you mistakes are not uncommon. And frankly, I think it's ridiculous to think that the devs would be lying here. If there was no miscommunication, GGG could have just not mentioned the embargo break that happened, right? They took the video down.
Yeah, I don't think they're lying. Like, why would you lie? Like, there's no reason to lie.
But they made a whole big post about it, I think because it was their fault. There's really no sense in them lying to cover Fextra Life's butt. When somebody breaks embargo purposefully, you know what happens? You get blacklisted and you don't get codes from that company ever again. The devs are not coming out lying to cover up somebody else's screw up. Like, I at least have never seen this happen. Maybe this is the first time, right? But anyways, that out of the way, this isn't even the biggest issue that people have right now. Like, this isn't the main reason people are upset that because Fextra Life broke the embargo, right? The main reason that a lot of people are really upset right now.
They don't want to see guides.
Was just the fact that pre-launch review codes are even happening. Many were under the impression that this wasn't going to be the case for Path of Exile 2, and that we would all be playing the early access version of the game for the first time together on December 6th. So what's happening? Well, GGG addressed this as well in their tweet by saying, we've seen some speculation that some people might already have access to the early access version of Path of Exile 2. To clarify, some traditional games media have been given access to a review review version of the game. Part of the stipulation that media were given is that this is for review purposes only. They may share their opinions of the game, but are not allowed to produce guide-style content from this version that would spoil the discovery of the game or post unedited playthroughs. They are not playing on the same servers as the early access version, so none of the progress will be kept. In addition, all of the content they produce is embargoed until the early access on December 6th, so no content is supposed to be posted until then. That's then when they said, sorry, we had a miscommunication with Fexture Life. It's not their fault, it's ours. And then they wrap up by saying, on release day, we want players to be able to make a more informed choice about if they would like to buy a key. We believe that allowing traditional games media access should be able to accomplish this.
I think that's fine. I think having a review copy is okay. It's just the guide creation that's the issue, right? Although, I mean, honestly, people shouldn't be looking at guides anyway if they don't want to look at guides, because people should be able to make their own choices and be able to hold themselves back, but that's a whole other thing.
Okay, so there you have it. They have sent out review codes to traditional games.
Did he do a guide?
This was done with the caveat.
He actually did create guides. He has them all lined up already. You can see it on his site. Well, he might have pulled them down, but he did make a bunch of guides shit, and then he redacted all of it. So there are guides on his site already ready to go, which is part of the drama.
That they couldn't post any guides or full walkthroughs. It was on entirely separate servers, so no progress will carry over, and the embargo is set to lift on December 6th when the game officially launches into early access. Now, besides the fact that now that we know the embargo is for December 6th, that means whatever miscommunication may have happened with Fexture Life was hilariously massive. They gave an embargo timing that was 6 days wrong. Excuse me? I don't know how that happens, but like I said, it's a sloppy process. There is miscommunication. People are misinformed. Sometimes the people relaying the information, the in-betweens, the agencies that are working with the developer and publisher and sharing the information and dealing with all the reviewers, sending out codes and all that. Sometimes somebody just doesn't know everything, or they get something wrong, or they type something wrong. That does happen. But anyways, that aside, people are just upset at the fact that anybody is playing the game prior to its full release. Why? Well, there's a few very particular reasons. For starters, people just have an issue with Fexture Life in general, them getting access, because mainly, people who just don't like Fexture Life for a variety of reasons, many of which I think are justified. I don't have a personal grudge against the guy or the channel, but I understand why some people don't like him, for the embedded Twitch view boosting that he does, for some of where they're getting their guide informations, for the quality of their guides, whatever. He's not what many consider traditional games media, because they do run a wiki. Whatever you think of that wiki's quality, they do have a wiki with guides and information, and it even appears like they may have already started populating their wiki with info that was acquired during the review, which I wouldn't be too surprised if they have at least got that process going. If they've truly played the game for 40 hours and they're going to have a wiki on PoE 2, they do have a wiki on PoE 2, they're at least going to start pre-filling out that information, even if it's embargoed for a week after launch, although it looks like some of that went live and then they took it down. But anyways, the point is, someone like Fexture Life isn't really just traditional games media, because they have a wiki and they do post guides, and this makes it counter to GGG's stated philosophy of not wanting to spoil the discovery phase of the game prior to launch, or just not wanting to spoil it in general. If a review outlet like IGN or YouTubers, someone like SkillUp, if they get a review, we know it's going to be a focused on the base game and sort of a one-off thing. There is little to no risk of outlets like that, of people like that, of channels like that, spoiling the experience and ruining the discovery of the game, especially for the late game and end game content. It's not going to happen. But that brings us to the other thing that's causing complaints here. It's that players don't want the game solved prior to release. And this is a valid concern. I totally understand it. It's one that was widely expressed during the launch of Diablo 4, because with that game, myself and many others did have access to D4 prior to it coming out. And specifically, the hardcore sweats of the crowd, the super blasters, they basically had the whole game figured out before it launched, with leveling and end game class build guides. With boss
Diablo is different though. 100%, I agree with you. But Diablo is different. Diablo is a game where people expect it to be solved already, which I don't necessarily agree with. But that is the expectation of players. A lot of players don't like going into the game fresh. They want to just have their build ready. So then they hop in, they have their build all ready to go. PoE is a different animal altogether. People want to do the exploration themselves. So it's just a different group of people.
Tactics with farming routes, so on and so on. I think especially for a genre like ARPGs, there's a lot of people who want to feel like they are part of that discovery phase all together as a community at the same time. And that people who aren't YouTubers or aren't guide makers also have a chance to come up with some of those great builds. Like,
it's like Elden Ring.
Find value in that. So that's something that gets taken away when people have access to the game 2 to 3.
Blizzard gamers need a detailed guide to open a mint. Dude, true. True, man. Like, look, we only have one brain cell left, right? We need all the help we can get.
3 weeks prior to launch, and especially people who are the type that are going to be figuring all this stuff out. So yeah, the concern is more so that Fextra Life running a wiki and posting guides, he isn't quite the same as, again, like an IGN or a YouTube reviewer like SkillUp who gets a review code, because they're not going to be posting endgame build guides, right? And meta builds. Now, I will say, though, at the same time, people are expressing this concern. I really don't think it's an actual issue, because Fextra Life in particular, in my eyes, is way closer to traditional games media than he is to the hardcore ARPG enthusiast. And what I mean specifically is I am under zero impression that any guides Fextra Life comes up with are going to be anywhere remotely close to the best, to meta, to actually being the ideal thing and actually being the solution to whatever problem is in the game, right? It's not the same as the ARPG blasters out there, people like Rex and DM and Rob, any of the crew on Maxroll and Icy Veins, for example. Those players getting early access does mean the game would be solved prior to launch. And as far as I'm aware, GGG hasn't given pre-launch codes to that portion of the community. So even though Fextra Life does run a wiki and post guides, I really don't think there's legitimate concern of them solving the game. They could certainly still spoil stuff, though, and if they're already filling up their wiki, that may end up happening depending on when that wiki embargo is. Well, Fextra Life and embargo timings, that's kind of a touchy subject as of this video, right? But truthfully, yeah, like all of that actual solving of the game, of finding the best builds, that is still gonna happen at launch and post-launch when all of the blasters and all of the hardcore members of the ARPG community are finally playing the game. Now, with that said, though, if Grinding Gear Games truly wanted to fully avoid any spoilers, any solving of, or any ruining of Path of Exile 2's discovery phase and the fresh launch experience, they shouldn't have sent out pre-release codes to anyone, especially people who run wikis. But again, I'm really not trying to single Fextra Life out. Everyone else is doing that as is. And like I said, I don't have a personal grudge against him. I do think some of the stuff that's been associated with Fextra Life is a little shady, right? Like the embedding to boost views and whatever. How accurate.
Being so nice, dude. But like, yeah, a lot of people do not like that guy.
Someone's wiki isn't like whatever. You can make a bad wiki if you want, but yeah, the view boosting was pretty shitty. So I understand why people have a really sour taste in their mouth when it comes to that channel and that individual in particular. But my main point being is they just got themselves in a really tricky situation here. They shouldn't have sent out pre-release codes to anyone, whether it's traditional games media or otherwise, if they wanted a truly pure experience, as they're stating they are. I get the argument that they're making is that they wanted to inform consumers, but consumers can be informed. It doesn't have to be on the day that it releases, especially since it's an early access release. And I say this as someone who does pre-launch reviews and previews and videos all the time, right? So like I have a bias to suggest that these companies are giving out pre-release codes because I can post videos early and those videos can get views. Even if that all stopped happening, I'd adjust, I'd be fine. There's still a lot of videos that I can make. I don't only do reviews after all. This isn't a review. But yeah, anyways, I'm not someone who would be figuring out the best builds anyways. There's no fear of that. I'm not making guides. I'm really probably not solving anything.
There's very few people out there who can actually like get the best fucking rotational, like best choices. Like there's not many people. I would say like maybe like 100 people I can think of off the top of my head that are like really good at that. Like it takes a lot of skill and a lot of foresight to make really good fucking builds.
ARPG. But regardless, GGG did put themselves in kind of an awkward situation with this one. They profess to not wanting to ruin the game for their hardcore audience, and I believe what they say, but at the same time, they're wanting to market as much as possible, giving access to publications with a wider reach outside of the most hardcore ARPG fans. And as a result, well, we've ended up in this rather messy circumstance. Now, is this going to ruin my personal experience with the game? No, Not at all. I am not bothered that IGN, Fextra Life, or whoever else got access will be posting their reviews on launch day. And as mentioned, none of them are actually going to have the best builds or really spoil too much of the game, even if they do post guides or whatever, which apparently they're not going to be allowed to until sometime after release. I will wrap up by saying, though, that the most significant thing that I took out of this whole situation is that the review, however embargo breaking it was overwhelmingly positive. Like, they were singing glowing praise for this game, and that is awesome. Like, I was already excited for PoE 2. I am now hyped. This is looking fantastic. I cannot wait to play. I can't wait to see all the discovery that happens for people from December 6th onwards. But anyways, that is it for this video.
Tomorrow's going to be so fucking hype, man.
Just this whole situation, this topic in general. I know it's a pretty heated one. I know there's a lot of strong feelings on the side of people not wanting the game spoiled. Like, whatever personal grudge people have against Fextra Life aside. Yeah, I mean, I totally get it, especially with a game like this. I understand. I do understand the complaints. But that is it for me for today. Thank you as always for watching. Hope you enjoyed the vid. I'll see you all next time.